The 1980s and 1990s brought us many enforcers in the NHL and the AHL and the ECHL and sometimes international leagues. But this guy, he kind of, I know it sounds weird, fell through the cracks. For every John Cordick and Ty Domi, there was players like him that had some skill, but were asked to drop the gloves. And when he played in the Maritimes, he was a big emotional star. He was very big with the fans. So, yes, this is a real name. We're talking about the great skilled player, a big drink of water, Wayne Van Dorp. Now, Wayne Van Dorp played with the Edmonton Oilers, Pittsburgh Penguins, Chicago Blackhawks, and the Nordiques. If you go on YouTube, when Dave Hodge was doing play-by-play for the last year of the Minnesota North Stars before they moved to Dallas, I think he was taking on Enrico Giacone at the old Colisée, and he was part of that revival year of Quebec when they were getting better in '92. Now, he played also for the Netherlands for Finster Flyers, Heusden, and Gis Groningen. He has a Stanley Cup ring with Edmonton for playing 3 regular season games and 3 postseason contests in '87. However, Van Dorp did not play enough regular season games, only a 40 or a game in the finals, to get his name in a cup, which I think is shit. Now, Van Dorp also played for the Netherlands national ice hockey team in the '86 Worlds when he was still a big pro in Pool B. Now, born in Vancouver, 6'4", 225, some people say bigger, like 6'5", 240. Left wing. Again, undrafted, and there's a reason why he was undrafted, because he was a late bloomer. Now, when he played with the Billingham Blazers at CJHL, he drew some interest with 22 points in 26 games. But with the now, I think, defunct Seattle Breakers in 1980, he had 8 goals and 13 assists for 21 points. Now, in '81, with the Breakers, 52 points, but 242 minutes in penalties. Now, Wayne can be best be described as a power forward that took to the fisticuffs every once in a while, a good stand-up fighter. Now, if you look at the stats on both Internet Hockey Database and Wikipedia, he doesn't show up, which is for a couple of seasons. So if anybody can tell me exactly what happened in those seasons, please let me know. I can't find anything any place. Now, the seasons again that there's no stats are 82 and 83. However, after his last season in WHL, Erie Golden Blades in '84 with 37 points in 45 games, 202 minutes and penalties. Now, he played in the Netherlands after 9 goals in 7 games with Erie in '85. Netherlands, some strong numbers: 38 goals, 46 assists for 84 points, for 112 with 112 minutes and penalties. Now, in '86 with Gis Groningen, 43 points in 29 games. '87, he came back to North America with Edmonton. In Nova Scotia, he had 5 points in 11 games, including 2 goals. Then played with the Rochester Americans for a little while before showing up in Nova Scotia. 10 points in 47 games, 192 minutes and penalties. Now, in the late season in Edmonton in '87, 3 games, 25 minutes and penalties, and 3 games in the postseason, just to basically be a second enforcer. '88 with Nova Scotia Oilers, 4 points in 12 games, 2 goals. Then he found himself in Pittsburgh when he scored his first NHL goal, 25 games with 75 minutes and penalties. He also played with Saginaw of the IHL that year with 7 points in 11 games, 60 minutes and penalties. Now, back with Rochester in '89, now in the Chicago system, he had 202 minutes and penalties in 28 games with 3 goals. Chicago that year, 23 minutes and penalties, 8 in 8 games, but played a full 16 games in the postseason with 1 assist and 17 minutes and penalties. 89-90, he spent the whole year in the NHL, and this is where he drew major prominence. 7 goals, 4 assists for 11 points for enforcer, pretty strong numbers, 303 minutes and penalties, and 8 games in the postseason. Now, 91, I said about that. That game I saw against Minnesota or Dallas, whatever you want to call it. Didn't only played 4 games with Quebec that year, with 1 goal in 4 contests, 30 minutes and penalties. 92 back in the AHL, 5 goals, 5 assists for 10 points, but did play with Quebec in 24 games, 3 goals, 5 assists for 8 points. Now, in 93, he split time with the Milwaukee Admirals of the IHL with 5 points in 19 games, and with HC Fiemme Cavallisi in Italy, 5 points in 9 games. Now, these are bizarre NHL numbers, ladies and gentlemen. You'll never see him again, probably. Only played 125 full games in the NHL. 12 goals, 12 assists for 24 points, not bad for enforcer. 565 minutes and penalties. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would have played a full season, according to NHL, you have 400 minutes and penalties. Now, in 27 postseason games, 1 assist, 42 minutes and penalties. Now, Van Dorp can best be described again as probably the poor man's John Kordic. He had skill. I watched a little bit of that Minnesota game. The Czech's style, he wasn't too bad. Now, there's numerous AHL fights on the internet that shows him with the Lyndon Byers. I think there's one against Serge Roberge. Now, to my knowledge, ladies and gentlemen, he's still on Facebook, and if you want to check him out around there, he lives in right now in Coquitlam, BC, and having a good life. Now, again, Van Dorp is a very, very important part of the Vancouver hockey era, and he, like I said, has great respect. A very nice gentleman in retirement. Now, the Van Dorp legacy is this. Again, if Netherlands would have made it to the A level of the playoff, he would have been there. Like I said, he had a role to play, but he did have skills. So for that, I give him great respect. Now, I'm good friends with Gordie Dwyer, the last enforcer of the Montreal Canadiens, and he can tell you it's not easy being an enforcer, especially in the 1990s. You had Tony Twist, Bob Probert, all these people. So Van Dorp, again, a very handsome guy too, classically handsome. He would have made a good actor, and I really appreciated him, what he did to help promote the AHL all the key years. Although he took a lot of minutes and penalties, he was very dedicated to his teammates. And he, when you needed a 20th player, he was there. So that's the legacy of the very, very unheralded, but the very, very talented Wayne Van Dorp. He was much more than his fists. I saw him play with Chicago. I saw him play with Pittsburgh. Again, like I said, he had skill. And you don't go to Europe unless you have a little bit of skill. Because if your NHL or AHL career is done, people want players like him because you can score goals. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what we're doing with our Sports File podcast on the enforcers of the NHL of the 80s and 90s, let us know with a like, comment, subscribe, or share.